Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Marketing Matters. I'm Sarah Touchstone, Landmark Titles social media marketing strategist and educator. I am joined with a fabulous group of panelists today. It is January 2024, and every January, we like to bring a panel of real estate industry experts onto Marketing Matters. This year's panel, though, is a little different. Usually we talk strictly about marketing and we bring marketing experts on because it is, after all, marketing matters. However, 2023 was a year with some ups and some downs, maybe a few more downs than ups. So a lot of people are hesitant. Buyers are hesitant. Sellers are hesitant. Agents, guys, this was a tough year, right? However, moving into 2024, we're going to talk with our industry experts about this. What are their predictions for 2024? Is it going to be better? Is it going to be the same? What is happening? And for this crystal ball predictions, I wanted to bring on a group of panelists that all have different specialties. So today we've got Keith Flynn with the Flynn Media Group. Keith is an expert, not just because I say it and not just because it's on the actual intro slide of our webinar, but Keith has been in this industry a long time. I met Keith when I first got into the real estate industry. We were actually 2 cubicles apart from each other, yelling marketing tips and tricks. That's exactly what it was, back and forth. So I am very well versed in his knowledge. Whenever I have a question that I just can't figure out, I will call Keith and be like, I know you know, and you know the answer to this. So Keith is great. He's been on multiple years, so glad to have him back.
Thank you.
Then for numbers, right? Everything's in the data. I've got Amy LaDow and Edward Patrone on. Amy has done a plethora in this industry. If there's something in this industry, a different category to work in, Amy's got those boxes checked off. So she really does bring that wealth of knowledge across the industry standards. And Eduardo, he's got our back when it comes to those numbers. And we're going to dive into that as well. And then the famous Jackie Briggs. Jackie is famous in the Moon Valley area and around. She is a powerhouse real estate agent. She's extremely knowledgeable. And during this past year, Jackie did not stop. She has kept going and has come out bigger and better than ever as a top producing agent in our real estate industry. So excited to have you guys on today. Does anybody have anything that they want to add to their introduction? Would you like the platform for a moment or two to give us a little bit more insight? And if not, I will start firing off questions. Okay, silence is good. All right. All right, guys. I'm so thrilled to have you guys on today. This means a lot, like I said, not only for our traditional January panel, but our 150th episode. So if you guys are strapped in and ready for launch, I even printed out our questions today. We are good for go. All right, Keith, because you are the first on the slide. Yes. And you texted me back about your questions. All right, I'm going to go ahead and dive in with you first. And of course, my panelists, these are specific industry questions that I'm asking you about your expertise. However, if you have anything that you would like to add in addition to another panelist questions, please dive in. Okay, so starting with Keith, marketing. How do you anticipate changes in digital marketing strategies impacting the Arizona real estate market in 2024?
Yeah, so that's first of all your questions were awesome. Some are, a few were in my wheelhouse, some aren't. So I thought it was a very diverse panel you have today. So kudos to you, and thank you again for having me back. I appreciate it. I always look forward to this. And one of my main roles at working with real estate agents is the majority of the agents that I work with are new licensees, so they just don't know what they don't know. And I've learned over the years there's a lot of apprehension when it comes to utilizing social media and embracing it. We always look for agents who have transferable skills, who are able to come in and easily adapt to learning how to be an agent. But one of the things that kind of smacks them right in the face is I need to market myself. Not only am I the CMO, the CEO, the CFO, and all, the valet and everything else that comes with being an agent, is ramping up those new licensees and getting them up to speed when it comes to marketing themselves as a personal brand. And so I think that with social media, it's always evolving. There's always a new tool. There's always a new way to approach it. And I just hammer over the head of a lot of agents, and they're doing their best to embrace video. During COVID, we saw a huge explosion of short form content because we were all, locked in our homes and couldn't shake hands and meet people. And so I think since things have obviously kind of gotten back to quote unquote normal, it's good to see that a lot of agents have still continue to embrace video. I know and we can touch on this and some other questions that I know it came up, is the apprehension about being in front of a camera and being on video and critiquing their voice and worrying about how they look or the presentation. And so I encourage agents to continue to evolve and learn to embrace social media. But most importantly for a real estate agent on a hyper local niche market is find more ways to partner with influencers. And that's connecting with loan and title, people in the local area whose business may be a spinoff of what would assist or promote real estate. So professional organizers, people who can help you declutter, front landscaping, architectural designs, home remodels, you name it, contractors. As a real estate agent, find those people who have a big following as well and connect with them. Find out what motivates them, what things that your new clients, existing clients can do to enhance their home, increase the value of their home, but get them on camera with you so that you can commingle your audiences. And naturally, they're going to share your content with their audience because they're on camera with you and vice versa. And so one of the biggest things for this saturated market of real estate agents is just really finding ways to differentiate yourself from your competition. And I think partnering with those who serve our industry and provide value for your clients is going to be a big play and one that needs to continue to move forward. There's so many small entrepreneurial businesses out there that service our industry. What better way to connect with them and just, I got your back, you got mine, and let's build a partnership together and grow our audience.
Yeah. Well, I love that answer as a real estate industry partner, of course.
Yes.
Reach out to your partners and, get them on camera. This is what we're
I have
supposed to do.
something to add to that. Not just partners. There are a lot of small business owners who are in our community who don't really have a following, to be honest, because they're working on their business and they're not marketers, so to say.
Right.
And we've had such a good time. We do a local business spotlight on Moon Valley businesses, whether it's a coffee shop or a flower shop. I mean, a chiropractic office, not necessarily related to our industry, but getting them out there and referring good people to our database has been huge. I'll have people stop me and say, "Oh, I used your painting company that you recommended." And, they didn't even have an Instagram, but I put them on a postcard or social media or blog, and they got business off of it too. So I think that's another way, especially when we don't have as high a transaction volume, that we can go out and be of service just to the overall community, even outside of our industry networks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Great
mean, when you support your community supports you, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. Now for the numbers, Amy and Eduardo. Considering the economic indicators, what trends do you predict for the dreaded word interest rates in 2024, and how might they impact the real estate market here in Arizona? This is it. Like, if there was no other question, right, for 2024.
That's the best question in 2024. But we really got really good news in regards to mortgage rates. If you follow the market like I do, they have come down quite a bit since their peak back in October, November of last year. We've seen a decline in about 1% from their peak. We were about 8.25. Right now we're in the closer to 7% in the high 6. So things are moving in the right direction. In addition to that, I mean, we're seeing inflation coming down, and the Fed's already noticing that. They're already talking about some rate cuts in 2024, and that translates to lower rates down the road. This is great news for a lot of buyers because they're going to come back to the market. So we're going to see more buyers coming in, and maybe those sellers who are on the fence right now and they don't want to get out. They don't want to be out of their 4% or 3.5%, and they're not selling. Maybe they're going to decide to make that move and then sell the house and then buy their bigger yard house or an extra room for their newborn, or maybe for a new office that they're work from home and they have to get that. So we're probably going to see more sellers and buyers coming back if rates come down by probably summertime.
Also, it is such a magical time like today for home buyers because rates have come down a little bit and home prices have softened a little bit. I don't see that trend continuing on the home price side, but I mean, if you are looking, now really is the time because we're still seeing some of the sellers giving concessions because maybe they've had their homes on the market for a while and they want to move on too. So like if you're buying a house, do it right now if you can. If it makes sense. I always say when people ask me when's the best time to buy a house, I'm like, when you can afford to. That's the best time to buy a house.
Yeah, yesterday was the best time to buy a house. Yeah. Today's the second best. All right. Well, with some of those predictions coming up, buyers need to get on the ball. They need to start really considering that we could be in a competitive market again in the blink of an eye. Jackie, if we end up again in a competitive market, which it sounds like that's where we're headed, which is good, what strategies do you recommend for winning in a multiple offer situation and securing the desirable properties for your clients?
Yeah, two things on the front end is just really preparing them for what they're going to be walking into, especially if they're looking at some older inventory. I think when people are feeling stressed about the overall impact of financially getting into the home, and then they walk in and they're like, oh, it's going to need a new roof or a new AC or anything like that, that can really scare them, even if it's a competitive market. So being upfront with them about realistic expectations for what the home is going to need in the inventory that they're looking at. And the other one is really picking up the phone and calling the listing agent. I am primarily a listing agent, and I get blind offers on a fairly regular basis from people who, I know they showed it, but they never provided feedback. They never called to ask what my seller's, reason for selling is, or if they have any timing considerations. And, or they're going to be doing a contingent offer and didn't include information about the house that they're selling, where they plan to list it, etc. So just having a little bit better communication will make a huge difference. It's really easy to stand out in that regard. So all along the way, whether it's from the showing, the feedback, just being one of the agents who communicates will help your buyers probably more than anything. Because then if they're open to that feedback and say, hey, the sellers, they're not going to get keys to their new place until this date. They'd really like to close here. And you can structure the offer to be a little bit more win-win and not have as many rounds of back and forth on the negotiations. So far, we're not seeing a lot of, 100,000 of asking, waive everything in the world. That's not our reality right now. But I do think just shortening an inspection period or, making the earnest money non-refundable after the appraisal is back, or those little things that don't really add a ton of risk to the buyer, but make the seller feel very confident about the offer. Those would be some things I would focus on right now as we start to heat back up.
Yeah, I think that communication's key, right? In a slow market, in a hot market, it really doesn't matter. That advice goes across the board no matter what. You are trying to represent your clients to the best of your ability. So picking up the phone and giving a call to the other agent, that's a great strategy, Jackie. Thank you. All right, Keith, back to you.
Oh boy.
Yes. Given the evolving consumer behavior, what adjustments should real estate agents make in their online presence and their branding to stay competitive?
Yeah, that was a good question. I gave a lot of thought to that one because, as I mentioned in my earlier answer, it is a big challenge for us to get above the noise and elevate and get a lot of get some exposure for us as agents. There are a number of tools out there, especially since and we're pretty much at the 1-year anniversary of AI. Since November of last year, you and I were chatting about that early in the beginning of 23. So at the 1-year mark, it has been overwhelming the amount of product offerings that are out there for AI. And it's a very competitive space right now. And a lot of companies have chosen a channel to focus on, and whether you're creating reporting for your writing blogs or any type of analytics. But one of the big things that a lot of the real estate agents, again, I'm mentioning earlier about being apprehensive about being in front of a camera, and that I have found interesting is AI cloning of your voice and your static image. And I have encouraged a lot of agents who tend to be apprehensive about being on camera to embrace this new technology and some of those specific offerings that do focus on the real estate industry, where we can upload a really nice headshot of ourselves as well as a 30-second clip of our voice. And then all we need to do is feed that AI a script. And now we've got an overlay of us, but it's not truly us. AI takes over, moves our mouth. The voice sounds pretty good. And we can now use that overlay when we're doing videos or tours of any of our open houses or properties. And so I have seen a few agents embrace that. It is a bit of a tech challenge right now, which we find for a lot of our agents, but a lot of this offerings that are out there will allow you to basically just really find a good shot of yourself, of a good recording, and then you can use that for your content. I think that's a really smart play for a lot of our agents. There are some downsides, obviously, though. Unfortunately, we need to be mindful of a lot of real estate agents who already have their voice out there on video. Unfortunately, there are those folks who can easily just take your voice, upload it in a WAV file or an MP3, and then we can use that for a lot of, they can use it for a lot of mischievous stuff. We've seen that in the news that's happened. So be mindful that the content you put out there, can utilize your voice to have a fake ransom or create stress, or you can call a friend and say that you're locked in a home. I know it sounds far-fetched, but it has happened. I've heard some stories about it. But at the end of the day, I think for anyone who's looking to differentiate themselves, embrace the technology that's out there, because it is moving very fast. And there's a lot of offerings out there that will provide you a way to kind of upscale your marketing and just get away from the static one image or a video every few months. I think consistency is the big thing for a lot of agents. Finding those times of the day where you can as Jackie said, spotlight, local community member or small business owner, fill in those times between listings where you can go and showcase historical areas. I grew up in Moon Valley, so I was happy to hear Jackie is representing the area. I went to Thunderbird High School. And so lots of friends and family in the area, always there on Christmas Eve for the lights festivals and so on. So I think really at the end of the day is just embracing your local community and finding the ways you can attach offline and online technology together to set yourself apart from your competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of AI and ChatGPT. I really, from a content creator's perspective,
Sure.
It's a game changer. It makes you work so much smarter.
Right.
And so, yeah, those types of things, and then integrating your branding
Mhm.
in with that, it really can be a tremendous benefit. I'm gonna have to get the names of some of those agents that have been using that AI, because I've seen it
Yeah.
and it's unbelievable.
And it's always getting better, because when it first started, it was a little creepy. You know, it was a little bit of robotic. The voice wasn't, the inflections were not there, what you would normally have as a natural speaker. But the AI continues to get more and more advanced, and it's becoming more natural. And so I'm trying to be a positive person, but I also see a lot of the negative sides of it, because, you know, misinformation, you know, that's not actually me, you know. And so it's a double-edged sword with most technology, but be mindful of both the good and bad of it, so that when you're making a informed decision to use it, you're putting your best foot forward. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, Keith. Thank you.
yeah.
Okay. Back to Amy and Eduardo. Now, we still are dealing with, rates are starting to stabilize, inflation's feeling a little less pressure, but we are still dealing with inflation and coming off of inflation and just that mindset. So given the current inflation pressures, what advice do you have for real estate agents to navigate potential challenges in pricing and negotiation?
So Jackie kind of hit it too, but knowing your area, there's the saying, you get rich in a niche. So whether that is a type of client, meaning, okay, this is the type of client that I love to work with, if it's engineers, if it's attorneys, if it's, teachers, and you can get your referral network that grows, because like attracts like. So if they know, trust, and like you, they will refer you to a lot of great people. And also knowing the other agents. So when Jackie said she gets blind offers, it is crazy train that you're going to represent someone on their biggest investment of your life, and they're not going to call the person that's holding the cards. That's just insane to me. But I know it happens all the time. And building that rapport with other agents will absolutely put your best foot forward when you're representing your own clients with negotiation. If you've got a great reputation and people know you're a straight shooter, that's going to serve your client base so much better than if they don't even know who you are. So I think that's extremely important. But getting back to the geographical component, I know there's successful agents out there that can traverse the entire state. I absolutely know that. But knowing that there's certain areas in Scottsdale that are land lease or on septic, or, there's the magic zip code 85254 that has Phoenix utilities, but it's a Scottsdale address. I mean, there's little nuances in there that are so important to your client base to know, so you can be the true expert on that. So I think that is a huge advantage if you really know what's going on. That way, if you do, you can meet that appraiser when you are the listing agent, if you're on the listing side at the property, and make sure that don't be a nuisance. Jay Joseph has an amazing class called Doing Comps Like an Appraiser. So you should probably check into that. But if you can meet the appraiser at the property and say, hey, I know you have your own information, but are you aware of this, this, and this? Here's mine. And then just let them go about their day. That's going to also represent your client on a different level. And just little things like that. And the knowledge is so important.
Nice. Very good. Yeah, agreed. This is, a time where you do have to be creative, and you do have to know your stuff as a real estate agent, because they are coming to you for your knowledge, for your expertise. You are the expert when it comes to real estate buying and selling homes. So knowing that.
The other piece to that is, I read a stat just 2 days ago that this is the first calendar year, meaning 2024, that agents did not renew their licenses in a huge number since 2012. So that's also really telling on the expertise it takes to sustain a more challenging market. So we're going to see some expertise being really shown and highlighted, especially with all the buyer agent things that are on the horizon. I mean, it's going to change our landscape in a lot of ways, and the best are going to survive.
Nice. The best that like everybody that's on here today, right? Okay, Jackie, especially from a listing agent's perspective, what do you think are going to be, and Moon Valley is a great place to showcase trends and emerging trends because it is such an interesting market. But what emerging trends and features, amenities, that sort of thing are going to gain popularity amongst buyers, and what can sellers do, and what can they implement to really become attractive, especially if we're going to end up in a competitive market?
Sure. So the number one thing I think is going to be the accessory dwelling units. ADUs in Phoenix being allowed it's just a game changer for a lot of people. It really gives people the option to stay in their existing home with their existing rate that they love so much, while still meeting the needs of like a changing family situation. So whether they are using it as a home office, a man cave, like in-law casita, or even renting it out on Airbnb, whether, you know, legally or not, those are all things that people are going to be able to do. And it really just gives the option to stay in an existing neighborhood and an established home community while still being able to meet that growing need. And I can say buyers love it. The value, I think, for a buyer for some type of guest house or casita it really exceeds what you get on an appraisal. To be honest, I think that's a little harder to quantify on paper versus what it means for the family who's buying it. And then the other thing is just kind of on that same note, but without having to build, any type of flex space. So the room that, you know, maybe used to be a dining room, but now is kind of like the home gym or the office or something. And the one thing with that is, I think as a listing agent, that room can kind of become a catch-all where you walk in and there's like a rower and a Murphy bed and, you know, music instruments and whatever, is really defining the space as something when you're listing it. Because you want buyers to go in and be like, oh, this is their whatever, right? Like their office, and not have all of the other things in there, because then it sort of feels like you don't have enough space. But I think people have used those spaces for so many different things. They become this catch-all. And that would be one thing that listing agents should really focus on, is making sure that when you look at a picture of what that room is, it's very clear what you're walking into.
That's great advice. And I do think, the option for the ADUs and the, you know, extra building features, like that really is kind of a game changer for the Phoenix market. So it'll be really interesting to see over the next year how those really emerge. And this is kind of new territory too, right? Like, well, you know, there are homes with casitas. I mean, we use this in our language very frequently here in Phoenix, but usually that's luxury, right? Casitas are with luxury homes, but
Or
now
like historic.
historic.
You've got a 1,300 square foot home with a 600 square foot casita. That doesn't work for a lot of families.
That's what we're comfortable with. Like, we're familiar with it, but now to see this translate into any home, really, it's going to be super interesting. So that's great. I'm glad that you brought that up, and the flex space. You know, we all have it. But as a realtor, how do you define it when you are going in? And kind of going back to the rentals and whatnot, I'm going to go back to Amy and Eduardo because I have a question similar to that. With the housing affordability concerns, because Jackie and I were just talking about those with the additional dwellings on the same property. What are y'all's projections for medium home prices and rental rates, as you know, being a key factor here in the Arizona market?
We think, I mean, everyone that we talked about in our industry, we think that home prices, medium home price will continue to go up. I mean, as more buyers come back to the market and we see a higher demand in homes, prices will likely to go up. And we're growing every year. Our population is growing, so more people moving into the valley. Rents are going up; they're not going down, and that will likely happen. To happen in 2024. Amy.
Yeah, the good news is our wages are actually outgrowing inflation. So Arizona's wealth is growing faster than inflation. The types of jobs that are coming here are things, I mean, I'm a fourth generation native, and we didn't have the jobs that we have now, even when I grew up here. And so the variation in the professional industries that we have here, what was the 5 C's when we were all cotton, cattle, climate, right? Citrus. I know I'm missing one, but you guys will remind me.
Copper.
Thank you. Copper. There we go. Duh.
Yeah,
Hello.
Not even a native, but yes,
Yeah,
the 5 C's.
perfect.
Now copper comes out of the house, not so much from the mountain or the.
So we're seeing much better wages here. So that is also going to affect our housing prices and our rental prices. Okay, Eduardo, I'm totally putting you on the spot, but Jackie brought up the ADU. So just to do the differential, Eduardo's the lending ninja, like he's the magic lender. I know that we have some kind of program that will take into consideration the rental on an ADU. So that's also going to change the landscape a little bit.
Yeah, their lending changes every single day. You go back and they make a change, and you can use rental income from an ADU in some of the programs like Fannie Mae. Some FHA programs will allow you to use it depending on the scenario, but you can check with us and we can go into details about what can be considered.
Yeah, I do. I agree. I mean, like I said, it's great that Jackie brought that up. I'm glad that you guys are, because it is. I think that's going to be a huge game changer in our Arizona market for 2024. Like, it's exciting. I can't wait to see. All right, Keith, back to you. All right. How can real estate industry professionals continue, because they're already using social media, right?
Right.
How can they continue to leverage the social media platforms to enhance their marketing efforts, and which social media platforms? Because that's the big question, right? There's a dozen of them. Which one should I be on? How am I going to generate leads? All of them have their own particular little nuances, but what are the big ones?
Yeah, that's the big question. Is it's overwhelming when I teach the classes and we go through Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, WeChat, UChat. Everyone's got an app for something. It's not so much about the app itself, it's what it can do for the people. And so I often challenge our audience, our classmates, and say, reverse engineer it. Like, where is your audience? And then that's where you should be. If you're targeting millennials or first-time home buyers, they're all going to be on Instagram and now slowly transitioning to TikTok. TikTok was a big rub for a lot of folks early when it's infancy, and then when we had COVID coming around, we had a lot of agents who pivoted to TikTok because it still had some great tools to utilize to edit video and content. And just like Instagram moons ago when Facebook was the Quan, and then Instagram started to come around, everyone would say, oh, the kids are all on Instagram. Well, one thing that doesn't change is we all age. And eventually we continue to use the things that we're comfortable with and that we find sexy and have fun with. And so the demographic changes. And now we've got, some of our older millennials, and I know I'm on Instagram and I love the social media aspect to it. Thankfully, I'm old enough to remember what it was like when we used to buy TV guides to figure out what was going to be on TV the next day, but I'm young enough to be able to embrace it and utilize it for my business. For a lot of agents, I tell them they don't need to be everywhere, just be where your audience is. And so if you're targeting Gen X and early boomers, they're embracing Pinterest and they're utilizing the visual aspect of Pinterest boards. I'm an avid foodie. I love to cook. So I often go there to find a lot of content, and then there's always crossover. Our industry is so visual, so there's a lot of platforms out there that are natural marry. Facebook still leads the way with, the most amount of daily visits and use. So, and with Meta owning Facebook and Instagram, I think the two are easily coupled together, and they should definitely be within the wheelhouse of a lot of our agents. When it comes to what we put out in the way of content, the 4 E's: educate, engage, entertain, and empower. Keep it positive, keep it fun, keep it consistent. But at the end of the day, if you're not a goofball or somebody who has funny ideas, that's great. We don't, the entertainment aspect may not be there for you. You can still embrace entertainment. You don't always need to be on camera in order to do it. When it comes to educating, I think that's one of the biggest parts about being a real estate agent. As you learn, as you evolve, as you learn about your client, because the first thing that we learn as real estate agents is all the story. What's the story? Why are we moving here? Why are we changing locations? Are we downsizing? Are we upgrading? Those stories are awesome, that ones you can share with your clients, how you help somebody overcome a situation, because chances are they're in that same, or will be in that same mindset at some point. And if you're able to create a bond with your audience before they know they need your service, I think that's a great play. And in doing so, you're creating a connection with your audience. Get away from hitting people over the head with just listed, just sold, under contract. We get it. If there's no intent to buy right then, that's going to turn me off, and it's not appealing as a consumer and something I want to watch. Now, if you've got a great holiday recipe that your family likes to enjoy every holiday, and you're going to share that recipe, I'm going to engage with you, and I'm going to continue to follow you. Yes, I know you're an agent, but when the time comes, I'll probably reach out to you because I'm going to remember all the great content that you put out along the way. And so I think for real estate agents, remembering that not only we create relationships offline, we have the ability to create them online now, and then create that audience so that when the time comes or they know somebody who does, they're going to remember you over the person who created a Facebook page 2 years ago, and it's been dormant ever since.
Yeah. Can you expand a little bit more on the turnoff of the just listed, just sold? Because it's a big one, like, right?
Yeah.
That's one that all agents are typically utilizing on social media. So can you pull that a little bit more apart?
Yeah, I'm not saying don't post those. We should all celebrate our small accomplishments, our big accomplishments. It's social proof, right? We're putting it out there that I have listings. I've helped these family. I've helped a single buyer. I've helped them with their buying and selling process. So yeah, we should definitely celebrate those. But at the end of the day, we're supposed to be, or we champion the fact that we're the neighborhood mayor, we're the expert in the area. And so there's so many other aspects of you as an agent that you can share with your audience and help create that bond, help create that connection with your audience. I think that one of the most overlooked aspects of social media content is getting out of being an agent 24/7 and being a connector. Be somebody who can couple the local nonprofit who's doing a water drive in the summertime with tapping into your local community. And there may be a lot of folks who don't know that there's a food bank right around the corner that services a lot of your neighbors that you may not know. And if there's a way for you as an agent to connect the existing neighborhood with those services, then it's just creating that community and building and giving back. One of the best stories I ever heard was there was a crossing walk lady who had been servicing an elementary school for 2 or 3 decades. Everyone would wave to her. No one really knew who she was. And there was an agent who stopped and interviewed her and got her on camera, talked to her, and told her story. And because she had been there for so long, and people jumped into those closed groups on the Facebook for the community and started chiming in. And not only do my kids now get crosswalked with her, but I remember when I was in elementary school and she was my crosswalk lady. And it was just a really nice story. But what happened is it created a conversation and it connected the community, and it filled in a lot of those questions that those who lived in the area didn't know about her. And it was another opportunity for that agent to showcase what's great about their community and what makes it gives it a heartbeat. And I thought it was a really cool piece to it. And that agent subtly introduced the interview. Of course, it was tied back to their closed Facebook or their business page. and they didn't have to hit anybody over the head with open house, new listing. It was about showcasing what really makes the community special, and it was as subtle as someone who everyone waves to, but no one really knew anything about.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I think too, consumers are familiar with the home buying process enough to know that it's just listed, under contract, just sold.
Right.
Those are the steps along the way that people are familiar with. So advertising those steps, yes, if you have a listing, we would hope it would close, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes showcasing the steps, right? What were the challenges that were overcome? Real estate is not all puppy dogs and rainbows. Every deal is different. There are always challenges. And so I think a lot of times too, switching your marketing mindset into sharing some more behind the scenes, or like the things about your community, what made this deal special,
Right.
can really go a long way, as opposed to almost the robotic, just listed, just, under contract, just sold type of posts. So
Right.
really, like you said, adding that heart into showcasing on social media what it is that you are doing for your clients.
And I think if you're going to, when you do post about those accomplishments, finish the post with a question that's open-ended, that elicits engagement from your audience. Here was an out-of-state buyer who was downsizing. We found them an amazing, home in the area they were looking for. Here's some challenges that we overcame. And then at the end of that post, pose a question back to the audience who's seeing that, to entice them to get into the comment section and go back and answer the questions. Don't post and ghost. I see that too often. And now we just come off as broadcasting and never really truly engaging with our audience.
Agreed. All right, Jackie. So over the years, we've seen a lot of people going from the in-office workspace to the remote office workspace. And now we're kind of, yeah, exactly. And now we're kind of in that trend of people are going back, some people are going back to the office. So how have these changes in remote work impacted us in the past? And how are the changes with, some people still going remote, but then going back to the office? And maybe people bought the last couple of years and now they're, they were remote, so they moved an hour out of town. How are these changes, this back and forth changes, how are they impacting us, and what can we expect to see in 2024?
Yeah, I think that kind of goes back to that weird flex space.
Yeah.
That maybe was the office or the kids' schooling area, or, and I'm seeing people needing to define what that is and what that's going to be for their family moving forward. But absolutely, buyers want to have a dedicated place to work, and most of them would like to move it out of the master bedroom, if that's where it has been for a while. So having just that extra space anywhere that you can create a little nook for having a bookcase or a wall desk or any type of space where somebody could sit down with a laptop and get something done. We also see this a lot in Airbnbs, that they will do a really good job of creating what they call their workspace. And it might just be an extra side table in the dining room, but it has a chair and a little space for a desk. So I think being on the lookout for how you can maximize all of that interior square footage. And I think there are a lot of people who'd like to go a little bit bigger, who'd like to get an extra room or two, and are just, kind of got priced out of the market when rates went up so rapidly. And I think once they come back down, they will be right back there with wanting that extra room. Even if they're only using it 2 days a week, it would be really nice to have.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it really did change. I bought my home the end of 2022, and we have a loft that is office space. There's office space for 3 people in there, and that was important, right? And as the climate changes and whatnot, of course I could convert that into sitting space or something like that, but agreed.
Or a gym.
Or yes.
Also, a lot of people are wanting to have their gym in their house. They got kind of used to that and dropped the membership and want to have a space for it.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people moved into their garages, which is great during right now. Not so great during the summer.
We added an air conditioning unit to a detached garage here and created a gym and a game room to give that space. And I will say my husband and I both work from home. So we had a kid move to college this fall and we have separate offices for the first time and it's amazing.
Ooh, jealous.
Oh yeah.
So people are still wanting extra space, especially if they have to work at home with their
Yes, I agree. I've got 2 high schoolers and I already have plans for their bedroom. They're only like a freshman and a sophomore, but I'm like jotting down. I'm like, and this could be an office. This could be the gym.
Yeah, this is my yoga and meditation room now.
Yes, have fun in college. You get to come back and you sleep on a yoga mat.
They come back for the winter, just so you know. We had this happen. They come back on winter break and want to sleep at the house, and you've already turned their room into an office, and then you have to figure something out. So lessons we just learned.
All right, guys, last question is going to be for Amy and Eduardo. Are there specific data metric or analytical tools that you recommend real estate professionals incorporate in their decision-making process for 2024?
Amy's probably going to talk about the one she uses, but the one that I mostly use, which if you work with your lender, you can reach out to them and talk about MBS Highway. MBS Highway is basically it's a website where we see mortgage rates, forecast, intraday news. So we get daily updates on mortgage rates and and predictions on what they're on rates. HomeBot is the one that we use as well. And if you're not using it, it's great. Amy's got a great story about that from HomeBot. I've been using it for 3 years now, and it's a great tool for a lot of agents.
The other cool thing that I use MBS Highway for, especially for listing agents, is I can go in and run the analytics on the appreciation rate for that specific address. And then what's kind of fun is for listing flyers, we can put something akin to, if you were to buy this house at, $795,000 in 5 years, the projected appreciation is whatever. I can't do head math that fast. So is this number, and then they can see, like, I don't want to lose out. So there's a little bit more of a call to action. So I also use MBS Highway for that. And Eduardo knows it backwards and forwards. Okay, my HomeBot story. I know that a lot of people know about HomeBot. So I have only been in this position for a year. The reason why I chose to come here was because of Eduardo. So I was a consumer. He did a loan for me. He did a refi for me almost 3 years ago now, and dropped my information into HomeBot. HomeBot, what it does, is a third-party analytic software, super interactive, that sends the homeowner an email twice a month, once on the property itself, once on the zip code. It also there's an app component too, so you can go in whenever you want. The most important thing for me as a consumer at that time was there was a spot, like probably 3/4 of the way down, that said what you can do with your equity. So I see this and I'm like, really? So I call Eduardo and I said, do I have to sell my house? And he's like, no. I said, really? So in there, also with the ADUs coming up, is there's charts on what your home would rent for. So you could also put that in there. There's all these different interactive pieces to it. So long story short, I bought 3 other houses in 18 months that I didn't even know I was gonna buy, because HomeBot told me I could. And then Eduardo did his magic on his side and got me the best loans I could have ever hoped for. So it really did change my life. I now have 3 rental properties. I had 4. I sold one of them. It was in the magic zip code. It was a Airbnb, and I could see on HomeBot when it was climbing so fast. And then I sold it at the exact right time. I could not sell that house now for what I sold it for almost a year ago. So truly, or I guess I sold it about 9 months ago, but regardless, because Eduardo sent that to me and he could help me navigate that information, I now work for him. So, and I'm not kidding. I just like real estate agents, my former career, I was hit every day by loan officers, and his team was my favorite for 8 years. And then when I used them on the consumer side, I was like, okay, well, duh. But HomeBot has a subscribe rate of less than 5%. And Keith, you can do videos, you can interact back, I mean, in real time with consumers. It pings the agents when the consumers are looking at listings or at their home values. I mean, it is, if you haven't checked on it in a year, it's a completely different product than it was even a year ago. It's so good. So that's my favorite thing.
Awesome. You know, and it's funny, Amy, I've done multiple HomeBot presentations with Marketing Matters, but I've never had a story like that. Like that actually, regardless of whatever else, that's an incredible testament story, you know, to the power of the information that you're getting and how you can leverage it and how you can really partner up and utilize these relationships and these tools that are available. That's incredible.
That's the short version too.
Well, guess what, guys? We're going to have Amy back next week to expand on her HomeBot story. Not just her HomeBot story. But I do like having you guys, our January panelists. I love to have you all back to really on another Marketing Matters. Amy is coming next week. Jackie, Keith, Eduardo, I'd love to get with you guys and get you scheduled to come back onto a Marketing Matters and focus on your particular area of expertise. And we can expand a little bit more instead of just going back and forth with questions. But this was amazing information today. Such a wealth of knowledge right here on this screen. Of course, you guys, this will be recorded and it will be available on our YouTube channel. So please, you know, continue to come back in. Does anybody else have any, you know, closing comments, or anybody in the gallery have anything besides, of course, thank you all so much for being on.
No, thank you. Appreciate it, sir.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Like I said, we've got Amy coming on next week. And then, you know, continue to look for the emails, the social media posts about what exciting things, and there are some really exciting things happening and changes with Marketing Matters coming up in 2024. We have been doing this for about 3 years, 150 episodes. Stay tuned because there's going to be a lot more great information. And I truly and wholeheartedly believe that 2024 is going to be a great year for our real estate industry. So thanks for kicking it off with me, guys. And we'll see everybody next week.
Bye.
Bye.